Navi's.
And we're back for game number 2 of this best of 3. Navi taking on Team Liquid here in our quarterfinals of the lower bracket in the G-1 Champions League Western Qualifier. I'm AC, joined by EG's own Milk for the broadcast. And tell you what, my friend, Navi just did not seem to have it together in game 1. Team Liquid came out firing, put 3 kills on the board just as the creep spawned, and never really looked back from there. Looking back at game 1, where did things really go wrong for Navi? I mean, outside of the obvious, I mean, you get 3 kills ahead in an offensive trial lane, that certainly helps. But outside of that, at what point do you really think the wheels fell off the wagon for Navi? And gonna guess he is either AFK or...
Oh, I'm him. No, I'm here.
There's the man. There's the man. Okay.
I think it went wrong when Bulba and Fluff on the Beastmaster and Lina started going around the map and killing off Phonic twice, killing off Dendy. Mm-hmm. And really started taking control of the map and making sure that Korra could get back into the game. And Bulba got up the fast arcane boots and mechanism. And basically, it was downhill all game for Liquid. So they could just have TC solo bottom lane against the tri lane and even pick up a kill. So I think everything went wrong for Navi. I hate to add fuel to the ping fire, but it was on US East, so this might be one of the reasons Navi pick Cuddle PL so often, is if they play on US East hosts, that's a lineup you can get away with playing on high ping,
right?
I'd say.
Well, Navi looking to turn things around quick, fast, and in a hurry here in game number 2. I didn't actually get a chance to check the server. As I understand it, you know, in situations like this, it's always 1-1 coin flip. So this should be on a server much more ping-friendly to Navi, with the West Coast players of Team Liquid certainly probably struggling as they reach out to what I would imagine is going to be the Luxembourg server. But again, don't quote me. Is it
this game will be played on Luxembourg.
Okay. So we'll see what Navi's going to have up their sleeve. Magnus is still available, and I know for a fact that Puppy loves to draft a mag. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see a mag Rubik pick here, especially with the pings being in their favor. Dindy has been playing a lot of mag, and I mean, let's be honest, Dindy's mag, it tends to be hit or miss. He'll have games where he just puts on a fantastic show and really shows you how to play the hero. But then there are some games when he just does not have things really go their way. So with that in mind, I mean, you know, looking at, and you touched on this in game 1, and I think it's worth expanding upon, that Keeper of the Light, yeah, there's the Rubin, actually. So I love the Bane pick coming out so early. That's a hero I feel like has really had his popularity and utility come to the forefront of the competitive scene here lately.
I think that's a great pickup and a well-thought-out draft from Puppy already, knowing that Bane can actually counter the Nakes right from the get-go with Enfeeble on the Nakes, pretty much eliminating Nakes as a threat in any lane they match up against each other. And later on, it's really good to shut down carries as well with Fiend's Grip. And he didn't really need to pick up the Magnus right now. One of the reasons behind this is stacking up melee heroes, first of all, isn't all that great. And Magnus plus Lifestealer isn't all that good of a combo because the Empower on Nakes wears off as soon as he rages.
So seeing the Shadow Demon as a reprisal from Team Liquid. Shadow Demon, another hero that counters Lifestealer very well. But as you had mentioned, you know, Bane really is just the counter to just about any melee hero, any big carry that you really are worried about. I mean, obviously there's Fiend's Grip, which is especially important against the Lifestealer, but even Enfeeble, which is no longer purged off my magic immunity, I mean, that alone can make it very difficult for a melee carry to try to do any physical damage in the mid-game, and it can really be a big liability. And one of the heroes I see that affect the most is Gyrocopter, actually. Gyrocopter, who for the most part gets by on his skill set in the early phase and mid-game phase, just basically because of how he works with the damage from Rocket Barrage, the utility of cooldown. And Bane can just remove Flak Cannon from that list as something that can be relied upon to do good damage. So, and obviously we don't have a Gyro in this game, but just expanding on why I like Bane as a hero and have really been impressed and really excited by the fact that he has gone from being a situational 4th or 5th pick to now being picked up in the first rotation. So we're going to see Navi round out their lineup with the Storm Spirit pick. In the meantime, Liquid gets their hands on 3 heroes they absolutely love. Clockwork, Bulba, and I stand by this. Bulba is one of the best clock players I have ever seen, East, West, or otherwise. Then the Lifestealer for TC, if he will indeed be farming it. And Shadow Demon, of course, a speciality of IX Mike. The one kind of question I do have, though, is the Lone Druid was available to them there. And one of the more potent combinations I ever see is a Lone Druid Lifestealer.
That's definitely true. I think they have some role issues if they do go lone druid. If they want the clockwork real bad, which I could imagine they wanted because of the Bane for starters, and Bulba playing an amazing clockwork, he needs to be playing that hero. And I rarely ever see Korok play the Lifestealer, whereas TC both plays Lifestealer and the lone druid, and I haven't seen Korok play the lone druid either. So they probably have a plan and some roles they want to stick by, and that's why they didn't want to pick up the Lifestealer. They picked up the Shadow Demon as the support, despite there was no risk in Navi picking up the Shadow Demon, but they could potentially ban it out. I'm not even sure they would have, but they could have. And now they force Navi to ban out heroes like Lina and Lesrek, the obvious follow-ups to Shadow Demon.
Navi's turn to ban.
So I think both drafts are fairly well thought out. I'm a bit surprised about the Storm Spirit pickup, because it wasn't to counter Liquid from getting Storm Spirit again. They already picked the Shadow Demon and the Clockwork, and if Navi didn't want them to have the the Storm Spirit after that, they could have just banned it out in the second phase.
Yep.
And Magnus was in the pool. Magnus is still in the pool, coming out from the second ban phase. But surprised Navi didn't pick up that hero. Maybe they're not as confident in him. Maybe they have a plan the other way around. Maybe they want to put on the aggression. I think we could very well see both teams go all out in wanting to fight all the time. I think Navi is frustrated right now.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, they're still boot camping. So I think Poppy has a plan. Poppy wants to lay it on hard and put Liquid in their place.
Well, Storm Spirit is a hero that is you see Storm on Navi. I don't know that I've ever seen that hero played by anyone but Dindy. So, and the thing about that is he does tend to run that hero mid. So looking at Liquid, the two options that jump out to me immediately are Gyrocopter as well as the Mag. And they do start to run into some problems, like you said, with who's going to be playing on what role. Lifestealer is not the most particular. They're going to get a TA, so there's going to be their mid instead of the Mag. That's actually a little surprising to me. And they could honestly grab a Gyro to run as a carry or off carry, depending on how they wanted to lane this out. But with TA there, I mean, where do you end up putting him? And I really think Gyro could have worked, except, again, the big counter that Navi has is the strength of the Bane and locking that hero down, both with Enfeeble. Fiend's Grip usually going to be safe for Lifestealer, but even being able to just jump that hero with Storm Spirit early on, Gyro is a hero who wants to be in the back of the fight, and Storm, of course, excellent, and making even the back lines not feel very safe.
Navi might go for Weaver, Provost Weaver. There's very little lockdown on Liquid right now, especially with the T8 pickup, so... But there's a Juggernaut also. Scratch that.
And we can see so far, Navi definitely wants to fight and wants to get the bulk of their work done sooner rather than later. Now, where Liquid's going to go with this, I mean, you look at, it seems pretty cookie cutter. Clockwork offlane, TA mid, and then you'll pick up another support to go with the Shadow Demon and the Lifestealer. They could still potentially, never mind, was going to say, depending on what their priorities were, the offensive tri-lane could still work even without a Lina or a Lesh, but instead they're just going to grab themselves a Chen. And I actually really like this draft out of Liquid a lot. Navi's is a bit more wide open, I think, in how they want to handle it. But with Liquid, they've just got the ability to stay rock solid in the mid game. They can apply pressure or they can turtle things out. Then they're going to have a decent amount of reach as well. I mean, Clockwork, of course, with his hook, and TA, once she gets up a Blink Dagger, that serves as an excellent method, both of those heroes do, for Lifestealer to get into these fights, to infest into the Clockwork or the TA, and just take the fight to the enemy.
I think Liquid has a lineup that plays to all of their strengths. They'll get heroes for each of their players that they really like playing and excel at playing, and they get the Chen pickup is really good against Nato's lineup because Juggernaut ulti isn't as good. They have very little AoE, so very little to counter the Chen push with, and Chen can of course heal up these tanky heroes already because Navi have very little to actually handle the TA with. So it's gonna be a tough time for Navi taking down both the Chen creeps and the heroes of Liquid. But if they decide to take it late, if they can take it late game, they do have the upper hand, obviously, with both Lone Druid, Storm Spirit, and Juggernaut in one and the same lineup.
When I look at Navi's lineup, and I kind of touched on this in my opening team introductions, I usually blow through those pretty quickly. But this is what I would say is a fairly prototypical Puppy draft. He picks teams that are very, very solid, that have a lot of, he likes teams, as you had mentioned, that have playmaking ability, like a Storm Spirit, a Juggernaut, of course, an excellent high-value hero in the early and mid-game. But when you look at it, you can see very quickly how this lineup can be picked apart. I mean, Rubik and Bane, as excellent as those heroes are, they need room to operate. If you can close the gap on them and just get on top of them before they're able to react, then obviously you're going to have the advantage there. Juggernaut, as good as he is very reliant on levels and on his abilities, and Druid, of course, needs his farm to really be any sort of an effect outside of pushing off the strength of Demolish on the Bear. So, you look at Navi, they're well-rounded, they're going to have push, they have excellent engagement potential, they have the ability to lock down a lot of heroes on the side of Liquid. But if Liquid's able to do what they did effectively in Game 1, which is just take control of the map early, get a lead in the laning phase, and then start to strangle and asphyxiate Navi, I have a hard time seeing how Navi's lineup is going to be able to bounce back. I mean, you're going to have Dindy on the Storm Spirit, which is always a big liability. That's one of his better heroes, and a hero he tends to really shine on. But you can't throw it all on his back whenever you do have a lineup that, as good as it is, at least to me, feels a little bit thin in comparison to Liquid's lineup.
They have very little lane pushability, and there's no really flash farming hero on the team. So if Liquid succeeds in shutting them down and obtaining map control, it's definitely going to be hard for Navi. One thing I noticed in the change of lineup in terms of players on Navi is that normally a lineup like this would, not that Light of Heaven wouldn't play Lone Druid, he definitely would, but had this been Light of Heaven in the lineup still, they probably would have picked up the Enigma to add on more aggression early on, to get more disables and have him play an offlane Enigma rather than an offlane Lone Druid. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the key differences in the hero pools of Funnick and Light of Heaven.
Very
they
good
could have gone with one as well, something we don't see Funnick play very often, but something we saw Light of Heaven play a ton of. So that's sort of the difference in the dynamic on the team right now, that Light of Heaven played some spell-heavy heroes, whereas Funnick plays some of these farming heroes a lot of times.
That's actually a bit of a change even from his role on Empire. When he was with Empire, one of his signature heroes for a while was Windrunner, as you had already mentioned. We're going to see Navi take a run at Korok. Korok will make it to the lip, though. And Havost takes a few steps up, but decides better of it and does back off. But, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's whenever you look at what Funnick tends to do for Navi now, and a lot of that, of course, has to do with the drafting and the game planning that's going to be different on the side of Navi compared to the ultra-aggression, the ultra-high valuing of lockdown, as you had mentioned, whenever that old Empire squad was together. But, the lanes, I mean, we can see how they're looking so far, and we can see it's very passive on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and run through the lineups in just a moment. But before I do, hang on, actually, Bulba might be in trouble. He's got some cogs, and he will go ahead and drop them. Bane's going to be there with the Nightmare. Kuro's going to have telekinesis as well. Dindy, he is level 2, so he drops the Remnant. Bulba should end up dead here, and will, almost certainly. So First Blood goes the way of Dindy, and that's certainly a nice start for Navi.
Great lane matchup coming out and choosing to put the Juggernaut mid against the TA rather than the Storm Spirit.
Mm-hmm. But with that First Blood on the board, both teams look like they're going to go ahead and back off. Nope, check that. Liquid not going to give me time to call the names out. They're looking for revenge, as we have Fluff and IX Mike making their way up to this top lane under cover of smoke. Ganking a Storm Spirit, tough when he's level 6. When he's level 3, not necessarily the hardest thing to do, so Dindy might be in a bit of trouble here. He doesn't have a whole lot of help in range either. So, and this is honestly the best possible place he could be standing for Liquid. So many ways you can abuse the vision there, and Dindy going to spot it out, but will be disrupted. Bulba's going to close the distance, drop down the cogs, and Dindy not going to be able to do much of anything, but telekinesis there. Puppy does react, and there's the Nightmare to try and bail their buddy out. Let's see if it's going to be enough. Rocket Flare's there. Dindy will be netted down and cleaned up. Bulba taking some damage, though. A couple more auto attacks might be enough. Bulba will end up being a return kill. Now, Fluff's not done. Kuro's the target. Doesn't have a net to throw. Puppy now going to be the main focus. He's going to be able to make it away, though. And there's a telekinesis on the Dark Troll Warlord, but a good disruption there allows Fluff to close the distance again, and the net is off cooldown. They're going to grab Kuro. He's got 2 stacks of Shadow Poison, going to try to deny himself, but no such luck. And Puppy comes back to re-engage, has very little health, wants to go one-on-one with Mike. Dindy's back up, and we're going to see Test of Faith get 1 kill. Fluff might end up being returned, and Dindy using the Vortex, but Fluff still running. Look at the body block! The Dark Troll Summoner blocking Dindy and keeping the last auto attack from going off. One of the most little subtle plays you'll ever see, but man, did it make a difference.
That entire series of play was great coming out from Fluff. He was very patient with the first net from the Dark Throne Warlord, so that the net was still up when Nightmare went off from Poppy. I'm not sure that Nightmare was too good either. I think there's a higher probability of the Storm surviving had he not used Nightmare on him. Secondly, Poppy again with a minor misplay. He had Brain Sap up when he was chasing for around for IX Mike, and instead of using it straight away, he actually allowed Chen to nuke him down with Test of Faith and never getting off the Brain Sap, which in turns allowed IX Mike to get away and Poppy die.
We can see Avos actually putting on some decent pressure here to Korok, and very easy to forget the way that the Blade Fury damage does register does of course pop down refraction charges, and so long as he's a little bit quicker, or at least on par with movement speed with TA, he will be able to chase her back, and refraction not so much as a free card out of trouble or a free way to get out of trouble. The bear taking a bit of abuse from Fluff here, and wow, he may just kill this bear. Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Funnick just flat out miscontrolled that. He was trying to make sure he pulled the creeps, and Fluff not only able to keep the creeps on his own side of the river, but able to get a free 100 gold for his trouble. And, you know, I'll tell you one thing about Fluff. We saw it in game 1, and Fluff's one of those guys. He's very quiet in demeanor. He's very quiet in usually what he contributes, like we talked about, and we touched on this in game 1 as well. He does contribute in a lot of ways to Liquid, but if you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. He's not a player you want to let get too far ahead because he knows how to make plays when he has a lead.
Definitely. But I think a lot of both these teams have
Funnick.
players that
Hang on, Funnick's in trouble. And yeah, there's what I'm talking about. Fluff and Mike hooking up and finding Funnick back behind his own tier 1. This is beginning to look a lot like game 1. We are going to see Navi move their way over. Puppy leading the charge and going to try to make Liquid pay. Fluff's already level 5, though. He's got a headdress up. He's not far from the buckler. And the Satyr Tormentor absorbing a bit of damage. They have done about a quarter's worth of HP damage to the tower, but that reaction will be enough to free things up. Take a look at Bulb. I haven't talked a whole lot about him. Even though he gave up first blood, he's already level 4 as well. So important to get your, especially when you're running a clockwork, to get him off to at least a pretty quick 6. Now Havos is going to be caught with a side trap, and Korok going to lay down another. Havos is dead. He can't do anything. Just a big mistake. And Korok getting an extremely high value kill there on the Juggernaut, and right now Liquid rolling their momentum from game 1 here into game 2 and looking damn good doing it.
They're effectively almost winning all 3 lanes, and that's one of the downsides of picking Lone Druid. He's very, especially on the off lane, he's very, very, very vulnerable to ganks, especially against heroes like Chen and Enchantress that can run around behind their tower with another hero and easily set up for a guaranteed kill, more or less. Even with the supports coming in fast, the Lone Druid will go down if he isn't level 6 yet. So they're going to have a hard time, and they're going to be on the receiving end from the get-go because of this Lone Druid pick. Whereas had they gone with an Enigma or a Windrunner that had a natural escapability, or the Enigma that could at least deny the lane experience-wise, that would have made it a bit easier for Navi.
Well, we can see this tier 1 bottom now going to be subject to push, subject to siege. Navi has rotated 3 up to top, actually. That's Phonic plus Dindy now occupying that, and they may just push through to tier 2, and really what reason do they have to stop? Navi has not shown any real ability to deal with this lineup. Korok with the DD especially still has half time on it as well. So he's swinging from the fences, and we're going to see open wounds on Puppy. Puppy went up to Brain Sap a creep, now going to Nightmare himself, but it just doesn't matter. Meld takes half his health, and the rest going to be cleaned up with a couple of auto attacks. So Puppy giving up a, to be blunt, rather nonsensical kill. That made no sense. Came up to Brain Sap a freaking creep, and ends up dying because of it. And, I mean, this, I think, and now we're going to see Dindy actually engage, but they just don't care. He has no damage to deal. He might end up dead if he's not careful. He's got Ball Lightning and a full mana pool, though, so wisely they opt to not pursue, especially into a Juggernaut that is level 6. But I think this is just the same problems we saw in Game 1, Melk. I mean, Navi just does not seem to be communicating. They don't seem to really be all operating on the same page.
I think one of the issues right here was that they have 0 AoE to spam out lanes with, so Puppy was trying to redirect creep aggro to him by brain sapping creep so they wouldn't push the tower as fast, but got caught out by Korok.
We're going to see a gank successful here in mid. Korok tried to help his buddy out, but unfortunately there are 3 there for Navi. So Navi does manage to get themselves a kill. Not the highest value kill, but Whenever you're falling behind like this at this stage of the game, any kill's high value. We can already see, I mean, we're 8 minutes in, Melk, and we're coming up on 5,000 gold advantage for Liquid already. The experience, just over 3,000.
Yeah, they're really pushing the advantage with the Chen pick right now, and that's what they needed to do too. They got the 2 towers, they got off a lot of kills early on with the smoke gangs on top lane, and then afterwards on the lone druid on bottom. And with this control they already have of the game, I feel like within the next 10 minutes they'll just push down middle lane and actually be able to take a Rax if the fight goes well enough. Korok has a blink on him now, a straight blink. No, he has regular boosts of speed. Does he? He does have a bottle, of course.
We can see a little bit of movement now up the top. We've got 3 from Navi, Dindy, Puppy, and Funnick. The rest of Liquid relatively spread out. The mech is complete now on Fluff, so we may see them start to run as 5 before long. Especially now that Clockwork is level 6. Having that hook, that ability to take a fight that way, or to even just counter-initiate against the Storm Spirit that jumps on top of you and your teammates, very, very essential. Havost, as mentioned, will be level 8 soon. Haven't really had a lot of time to talk about the farm. I mean, 9 minutes and 9 kills means we had a lot of action. Now Bulba going to be caught out and punished. Mike is there, and there's big TP reactions coming in. Koro going to be caught with the open wounds. He's going to be pursued out. Kurok's there as well. Dindy's going to go ahead and go on Mike. Mike looks to be in trouble. In the meantime, Korok will end up dropping. But now they're overextended. Dindy doesn't have a lot of mana and might end up being a return kill. And he will. Ends up dropping very easily. They're going to pursue Puppy. Sidetrap going to slow him down. Let's see how much they want to commit to this. He's going to be nightmared. Korok with refraction charges and his Blink Dagger, half his health in one meld. And there's no way Puppy survives here. Havost, though, might be able to get a return kill. Hand of God gets Korok back in fighting shape. And we're going to see the hook actually not connect. Bulba unable to get the job done. They're going to get them both.
So and there's a mech up on Fluff, so they're going to be able to push the tower until he just healed up Korok from almost dying from the Juggernaut. I don't think he would have. Fraction took off the last spin from late Fury.
10-5. I honestly don't know, Melk. I mean, have you seen Liquid look this good? I've seen them play some great games. I've seen them win a lot. But they are just doing everything right in this series. Game 1 was a complete walkover almost. And now in Game 2, I mean, obviously they're losing heroes once in a while. Mike's going to get off the disruption. Here comes the team. And Dindy going to have to get the hell out of Dodge and get out quick. And we're going to see Korok just engage, take some health, and force a ball lightning. And TC infested in. Looked like they wanted to pursue, but thought better of it. But, I mean, every aspect of the game right now, from their drafting to their laning to their execution in fights, counter-initiation, TP reaction, and getting things together on the push, it's just hard to imagine they could play any better even if they tried.
Liquid is playing great, no doubt. Navi seems a bit shaken by how much aggression that's being put on them in Game 1 and now in Game 2. But another thing I want to take note in is the fact that Navi has 0 ways of pushing out waves. They have 0 ways of dealing with the big creep wave of Chen, and this is going to hurt them so much. It hasn't even been that big of a factor yet, but now they have a mechanism up on Chen that they really have no way of bursting down all these heroes. They're gonna have to rely on fighting a lot with the Lone Druid and the Storm Spirit, and I mean, what they can hope for at best is a well-placed Omnislash and combining all of their spells on a different hero so that 2 of the Liquid heroes goes down straight away.
Right.
But from there they'll have to actually fight them physically.
And Dindy, now in no man's land, he's there trying to defend the Tier 1 middle on his own. In the meantime, Navi does manage to take their first tower of the game. And Dindy trying to be as obnoxious as he can. Glyph is going to be used. Don't know that it's going to make a difference. Not with the Centaur and Ursa there to tank through the tower shots. And full mana pool if he does want to come in. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a dead tower. No, he's going to be netted down, and they're not quite going to be able to get the Centaur there. They do get the Tier 1 Navi in the meantime. With their eye on the Tier 2. Let's see how Liquid wants to play this. Dindy forced to spin ball lightning again. Very judicious use of that ability as he saves most of his mana pool. And Navi does manage to get the Tier 2 down to half health before we see big reactions. Korok's on the way. He's got TC in tow. And of course, Chin's creep's going to have to come the hard way. And
Bulba just hookshotted Fluff right in his ass.
Bulba has actually missed a couple of hooks. And now Kuro, wow, see that? Yeah, see that big splatter pattern? That used to be a Rubik. That used to be a hero there. Yeah.
Is that one hit from Korok and the Infest?
Yep. That's exactly what it was. It was a meld plus an infest, I think. I'm pretty sure. But, yeah.
She's casually bought a Clarity and it's just sitting in his stash.
Just casual clarity in his stash. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, just in case, TC. Make sure you keep that around, buddy. 11-5, 16 kills on the board, and 11 of them belong to the North American squad of Team Liquid. We take a look at the gold. We can see they're up near 7,500 to their advantage, 5,000 experience, and Roshan now the target. If you're in Navi's shoes here, Melk, what plan do you have? What can you do to try and turn this game?
Split push, split push, split push, hope for item progression and level progression. It's all gonna come down to the Lone Druid actually being able to withstand the fights. But with the farm they have, and with the heroes they have against Lone Druid, a TA and a lifesteal, I don't really feel there's a way back. I honestly don't. I don't think Juggernaut does anything against neither lifesteal nor TA. Meanwhile, we see Convos going down after ultimate Boulder mid, and TA and Nature are both really good against Lone Druid, so not entirely sure what Navi's plan was with these picks.
We are going to see the courier picked off, so at the very least, they get a little help in that regard. Roche does end up going to Liquid. Didn't even see the kill in mid, by the way. I was watching TC, who was trying to solo defend against, and that's kind of the remarkable thing. He was trying to solo defend the tower against Navi. There were 3 there from Navi, and they couldn't kill him. They Fiends gripped him under his own tower and still couldn't do anything with 3 heroes there. So just goes to show you how tough to deal with TC is feeling already. Taking a look at Dindy, we can see he's currently sitting with 2 Null Talismans in his inventory. Puppy's pretty anemic. Havost, Ring of Aqualate, Phase Boots. Looks like he might be getting a set of drums with that Bracer in his inventory as well. We're going to see a smoke out of Liquid as Fluff leading the charge with his mech, with his Bassi. And I just now noticed both teams lost their courier, actually. Looks like Navi lost theirs moments ago. We're going to see a disruption. Not the best target to disrupt because he can't go ahead and Blade Fury, but Korok there to do damage regardless. He will be Nightmare, but honestly, that didn't help much of anything. And now the net's going to catch Puppy as well. And good hook coming out of the woodwork for Bulba. They just feel unstoppable, Melk. I have broadcasted Liquid Dota probably 20, 30 games, if not more by this point. And I seriously don't know I've ever seen them look this good.
Navi has nothing to respond with to these kinds of pushes, and it was actually a great draft by Liquid. Initially I thought it was a great draft by Poppy picking the Bane against the Nakes, but that also put him on the back end in terms of single target heroes, picking up the Rubik and the Bane Elemental, right. And then going with the Storm Spirit immediately after. Already you have 3 heroes that aren't really that great in defending. And then he picked up the Juggernaut and the Lone Druid thinking he could actually push Liquid, because at that point in time they had Nakes, TA, Clockwork, and Shadow Demon, not all that great for anti-pushing. There's Rockets, there's Shadow Poison, that's about it. And then Flock pulls out the Chen pick, a hero that fits their playstyle very well, that he loves to play, that he's one of the best in the world at playing, and that just completely countered all of Navi's lineup.
They can't even kill Mike. Mike on Shadow Demon is feeling tanky at this point. They're so far ahead. We can see he's just spamming, trying to pick him off. They still can't get the kill. In the meantime, TC will be Fiend Script. The rack still stands, and the game's still at least somewhat manageable. Korok will be forced out. And Navi now showing a little bit of strength of their own. They're going to be able to get the Aegis. Lifestealer's down, and TA going to be back up in a hurry. Pops Refraction. Doesn't matter a bit, though. So, there's a hook from Bulba. Gets the cogs down and got 2. Do they want to re-engage? There's a disruption to buy time. Nightmare going to lock down Mike, though. The TA will be able to get away, and it looks like Bulba may end up sacrificing himself. Fluff's right with him, though. And Bulba, no, going to be sent home, courtesy of Chin Airways. And IX Mike does end up being tracked down. In the meantime, Korok's still up and fighting. He's got a Blink Dagger. Fluff turned around for a minute. Going to guess a little bit of mismanagement there as he does end up cleaned up. So Navi at least able to keep the racks up. And Liquid looking great, but overextending a little bit. It's going to cost them a Tier 1 tower as well.
A little bit. That was overextension in its purest form. That was exactly what Navi needed. I don't think they could have hoped for anything better than this. Now they'll actually be able to take down towers, gain a lot of gold. We saw Funny completing the Armlet of Morrigan right before the fight. Now he's sitting on 1600 gold. Suddenly Poppy actually has 1,000 gold on him. It seemed to be a bit of misplay on Liquid's end. They had 2 heroes deep within past the barracks actually, and then the rest of the team was standing beneath the ledge of the base.
Yep. Taking a look at Avost, we can see he just picked something up. What did you get, Avost? Probably the rest of his drums, if I had to guess, and that will be the case. So he's at least beginning to progress in his items, as you had mentioned. Really the #1 goal they have to have, the armlet up on the old Panda Bear. I'll tell you one thing I don't like about the Panda Bear is with the armlet up, he doesn't have the LA lights. It looks like just his feet glow whenever it's the regular bear. So I like making the LA lights reference for all you 90s kids in the United States. But anyway, Korok does have a passenger. He's got a blink dagger phase and drums of his own, and he's looking for a target. Navi playing together pretty solidly. So, I mean, after we see that overextension, as you had mentioned, I mean, I put it kind of mildly, they just hung around way too long. Just how big of a difference does that make if you're Navi? How much ground does that allow you to close, and how much hope does that give you for a comeback?
Well, it makes all the world difference for Navi, because that's pretty much all they could have hoped for in terms of coming back. I mean, well, Liquid probably could have done it much worse. Maybe they could have gone into the base and all just hold their ground and stood still without attacking. But otherwise it went pretty much all in favor of Navi, that fight, and Liquid could have sealed the deal and played it a bit more careful and cautious and slowly hit on the barracks instead of overextending the way they did. It's not the end of the world for them, it's not like they threw the game away, but it was definitely not something they needed to do.
And Puppey going to be caught with a hook from Bulba. Bulba using battery assault, damage being done. Dindy's going to re-engage. There's Hand of God to try and get Bulba up, and he's going to be disrupted to save him. Puppey going to eat the open wounds, and Bulba still alive. Walking between the raindrops, Dindy will pursue him out and clean up the little goblin. In the meantime, Korok doing what damage he can, unable to pursue after the ball lightning. They end up going 1 for 1. Puppey for Bulba. They're going to find the bear, though. And Funnick, that's kind of cute, actually. Had him hiding in the woods because the cooldown on his TP, because he had taken damage, wasn't there, so they had the poor little guy hanging out in the woods, hoping not to be spotted. 15-10, Navi trying to get something done on Liquid's side of the river. They do, but it costs them a bane in their own right. And now it looks like Liquid's back on the warpath, moving up towards this last remaining outer tier tower in top.
It was actually a bit unfortunate for Bulba. He might have even survived that. The disruption came off right before Chen managed to get off the tester bait sent home. So had that gone exactly the way Liquid wanted it to, Bulba would have survived that fight too.
Taking a look at Dindy, he will be making his way to a Scythe of Ice. Quite a piece out from it, though. He's about 2,200 gold away. Very essential item for him, at least in terms of trying to give them that extra bit of reach and more single target initiation, as we've talked about. That's going to be the last outer tier tower gone now for Navi. And I mean, right now, this is where, I mean, if you're Liquid, you have no reason to leave their jungle or leave their side of the river. I mean, outside of defending your own towers. But Fluff with the Vlad's up as well. I mean, this is something I'd like to ask you about as a guy who does play a lot of Chen. Very often, I see, Vlad's come out whenever a Chen is so far ahead like this, Milk. And, Bulba just barely off of this hook there. But as often as I see it, once in a while will see a Chen rush and Ags instead. What really goes into the mindset of deciding what item you're going to spend that gold on when you are that far ahead?
It's your lineup and whether or not you plan on ending the game within the next 10 minutes or not. I think Fluff definitely wants to end it as soon as possible. He has 2 heroes that it's helping out a lot, and adding to that, it's mostly the bonus damage. I feel like whenever I get a Vlad's, it's for the bonus damage. Right, 15% to everything physically. That's a great deal of damage for a 2,000 gold item. Yeah. The scepter is really great for prolonged fights, and it's really great to have late game, but it doesn't really play that big of a role early game.
Right. It is easy to forget how early it is. I mean, I look at it, it feels like a much longer game than it's been just because of how much action we've had and how dominant a performance. And you look at the kill score and you're like, well, 15-10, not the biggest deal, but it kind of is. 8,000 gold to lead for Liquid. That's after their big loss in mid there, by the way. And 5,000 experience. So, I mean, it's not insurmountable by any stretch, but it's definitely considerable to be this early on. And, I think the reason I brought that up regarding the Scepter, and we may have action, so I may have to interrupt my thought, but like, when I look at the team of Navi, I don't see a lot of sustained DPS until the Druid gets his items up. Now Kuro's going to be spotted, netted, and probably cleaned up. No, probably, too. It will be sent back to the well in a body bag. But, I look at their team. I see a lot of burst. I see not the most amount of sustained DPS out of them, especially when you're talking about the Juggernaut, the Bane, and so forth. And it would seem to me that a Scepter might be a better choice, just being able to continually apply pressure and keep those heroes fighting without all of their skill set available.
Nah. Right now you'll see he couldn't have afforded the scepter yet anyways, and right now the Vlads will actually help them.
We're going to see them go ahead and be engaged upon. TC raging out. Dindy doesn't have a lot of mana. We'll be able to make it back to the high ground. Kuro's back up and fighting. Vos, though, has already shot his wad. Does have his ulti. Not going to get a chance to use it. Dindy continuing to bounce around the match. TC is going to be able to invest himself back up after the hand of God. We're going to see them cleaned up. Another buyback comes out from Jugger. He will have Omni Slash. There's a lot of targets around. Not the situation you want to be using here. Here comes Navi looking to re-engage. Now we're going to have Dindy bounce back. He wants to get Fluff, but the disruption's there. TC using open wounds, and Dindy getting blown up. Fluff will be locked down, and no! Not killed! The net catches him just in time. Evost uses Blade Fury. The Omni Slash was used as well. Enfeeble on TA doesn't matter. She's still going to be able to clean up the Juggernaut. The battle continues to rage with creeps and heroes going toe-to-toe. Puppey going to be the latest added to the kill list. And that's going to be 3 down with all still standing from Liquid. A fight that went on for what seemed like forever, and they're not done. Kuro does use his Ghost Scepter to get himself out of some trouble. But re-engagements, buybacks, went to the high ground, went to the low ground. In the end, Liquid takes another big win. They're now doubling Navi up. They've got 1 set of racks down, looking to make it 2.
Yeah, and this was sort of expected all along. I sort of thought it would happen earlier, but they did that overextension in the base where I think they themselves thought they could have ended it back then.
Well, we're going to see Kuro not cleaned up. Actually, here comes Dindy engaging right onto Bulba. Bulba is somehow able to stay alive. Avos, though, says, nope, not this time, little man. Never mind, Bulba cogs, and he's going to survive again. They can't kill the Clockwork Goblin. And the GGs come out. Navi takes their exit in the quarterfinals of the G1. They're donezo, they're gone. A team that most would have labeled as a favorite to make it to the live LAN. At the hands of the recently invited international participants, Team Liquid, North American pride on display as they come 1 step closer to punching their ticket to the live finals of the G1. What a performance, Melk.
That was quite the statement by Liquid. Great play by them, and definitely saying we're still in the race for these G1 tickets. We still want to go to China.
Yep, absolutely, man. And I'll tell you, this is a tough day, a tough 24... Bulba once again hooking across the Ancient. But it's been a rough 48 or 24 hours for Navi. They took their loss at the hands of Alliance, dropping out of the winner's bracket to begin with. And now, not even 24 hours later. Hell, barely 12. Let me think. 12? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been less than 12 hours just about. No, it's been less than 24.
24 hours.
Yeah, more than 12. Sorry, man. I'm on the East Coast living on Singapore time. Sometimes the days and nights run together. But yeah, they take their second loss. And they find themselves on the outside looking in here in the G1 Champions League. Break it down for me, Melk. Recap this series as best you can. What did Liquid do so right, and what did Navi do so wrong?
Liquid played their strategies to their fullest extent. I feel like the first game they did some awesome gangs early on, obtained map control, kept their groove on, and just kept on killing Navi throughout, and then ultimately having such a big item lead that Panda and Queen of Pink was irrelevant. Second game, the Chen pick, knowing Navi had no response to a Chen whatsoever, the only thing Navi could have hoped for was actually have the Storm Spirit and all of the rest of the team jump on the Chen to eliminate all the heals coming out from him. And Liquid just played it right. They pushed down, they ganked the lanes early on, they got out the items, and as soon as Chen had the mechanism, they could just push out all the outer towers and then finally end the game. They did look a bit shaky when they went into the middle lane at the 18-minute mark. But then when they did it again 5 minutes later, no problems whatsoever. It went from being 15-10 to 25-10 and 4 racks is down. So 2 total team wipes for Liquid and 4 racks is without even breaking a sweat. I mean, Fluff did break a sweat. To me, he was obviously the man of the match.
Yep.
Great plays from his Lina in game 1 and the Chen being the game maker in game 2. So yeah, Fluff definitely getting the MVP for me.